Hey guys, welcome to today's video. We're going to be discussing the Buffalo Bills and why they can make the Super Bowl and how they can win the Super Bowl. Before we get started, please drop a like and a sub on today's video. It would really help my channel grow. I'd really appreciate it. With that said, let's dive right into the video, and I hope you enjoy. So when I do these videos, I start with the offensive and defensive stats, and that's what I'm going to do. So on offense this season, the Buffalo Bills ranked number 2 in yards per game, number 3 in passing yards, 20th in rushing yards, number 2 in points per game, and Josh Allen was sacked the 9th least by starting quarterbacks, okay? That's out of starting quarterbacks. Defensively, they were 14th in yards allowed, 13th in pass defense, 16th in run defense, and 16th in points per game allowed. They were also 15th in sacks. So really, this was a top-of-the-line offense with a subpar run game and a pretty middle-of-the-line defense that really turned the heat up in the last few weeks of the season. That's kind of the rundown. But let's go over their recent success. Obviously, they just beat the Baltimore Ravens last week 17-3 after Taron Johnson had that huge interception in that game that really closed that game out. And then the week before, they beat the Indianapolis Colts in the wild card round, beating Phillip Rivers and beating the Colts and crushing their playoff hopes and aspirations for a Super Bowl run. And, I mean, Josh Allen's been really good, and it all starts with him. I mean, this season, he's thrown for over 4,500 yards, 37 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. And on the ground, he's added 421 yards and 8 rushing touchdowns. During the playoffs, especially the past 2 games, right, those are the playoffs, he has been the focal point in the running game more than the Devin Singletary, who has rushed only 10 times compared to Allen's 18 times. And this is something to really watch out for. Devin Singletary has not been getting the rock a lot. This season, I mean, he only ended up having just shy of 700 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, and after a season before where he rushed for 750 yards in 12 games. So, I mean, Devin Singletary doesn't look like the answer at running back, but in the playoffs, Josh Allen and the Bills' offense has really utilized Allen's legs to get outside the pocket and pick up yards on the run to really be effective in the running game, and that's where the run game has been. And if they want to continue being successful, they're going to need to continue being successful and efficient with Josh Allen. I love what he's able to do outside the pocket with his legs, especially moving into next week against the Kansas City Chiefs. And we're going to talk about that later on in today's video, about how to beat the Kansas City Chiefs and go to the Super Bowl. But with that said, I mean, Josh Allen, you got to keep running the ball. You got to keep going for it. And then also, I mean, he's got great weapons: Stefon Diggs, Cole Beasley, John Brown, Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis is a guy that I've really liked what I've seen from him. But let's start with Diggs. I mean, this guy led the NFL in receptions this year with 127 of them, 1,500 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Are you kidding me? He's an absolute beast. And then in the playoffs, he's already amassed 14 catches for just over 230 yards and 2 touchdowns so far in 2 games. So he is being very, very efficient through the air. And then you got Cole Beasley. I mean, this guy had just shy of 1,000 yards, 82 catches, 4 touchdowns. John Brown has been good. He didn't really show up as much in the regular season. He went out. He only played 9 games this season. But in the playoffs, he's probably been that number 2 receiver with Cole Beasley a little bit injured. But he's another good player that can be a speed threat and a guy that can really pair next to Stefon Diggs. And then Gabriel Davis, 35 catches, 599 yards, and 7 receiving touchdowns in the regular season. And in the playoffs, he was really big in that Colts game where he had multiple sideline toe tap catches, and that's kind of his specialty, what I've seen from him. But I really like the receiving core that Josh Allen has, and that's something that you can really build on moving forward. It's something that you can take to Kansas City. It's something you can take to Tampa Bay, hopefully, if the Bills end up beating the Chiefs next week. It's something that you can take. An elite passing offense is something that you can take on the road, and that is what Josh Allen has done all season, and I think he's going to continue doing that against the Chiefs, and if he beats the Chiefs, he's going to continue doing that onto the Super Bowl. As I said, the run game, they haven't really had that piece. If you look at the past 2 postseason games, they've thrown the ball 72 times, they've run the ball only 37 times, so you can see how they're just throwing the ball a lot more than running the football. They're throwing the football like a lot more. I mean, up towards 70% of the time, over that actually. So overall, they're really liking to throw the football. And that's okay when you're playing good offenses that like to score a lot of points, like the Kansas City Chiefs. And when if they make the Super Bowl, they're going to play against the Bucs or the Packers, who are both high scoring offenses. So throwing the football is okay. because you're able to put up a lot of points in a quick amount of time. I think this game against the Chiefs is going to be an absolute lights out. It's going to be who can score more points, and a passing offense is going to help in that situation. But it is a little bit of a concern that they're not really able to effectively run the football and control time of possession and clock management and stuff like that. Whether they're just pushing the ball downfield and letting their defense do the work, which is okay because the defense has been good. As I said, the offensive line is pretty solid. Josh Allen was only sacked the 9th least by starting quarterbacks. It's pretty good. That's top 10 in pass protection in that regard. They're good. I mean, they're good up front. Dion Dawkins is one of the better left tackles in the NFL. They've got some underrated guys along that offensive line, and they can do the job to keep Josh Allen upright and allow for Josh Allen to get outside the pocket. They're athletic and they're physical, and that's what you need in the playoffs. Defensively, though, they're not as good as they were last year. Obviously, last year they were an elite defense up there with teams like the Steelers and the Patriots. But this year, they were pretty much an average defense to maybe a slightly above average. But in the past 6 or 7 weeks, this defense has been outstanding. They're fast, they're physical, they're athletic. They don't really get a ton of sacks, but Jerry Hughes, who had 4.5 sacks in the regular season, leads the team in playoff sacks with 2 already. Mario Addison is another guy who's a big sack guy or a big sack potential guy who's a guy who can cause problems. And Ed Oliver is too. They've got players all along that interior that can cause problems on the defense side of the football. And then this defense is great when it comes to disrupting running backs. I mean, they had 6 guys on the roster that had at least 6.5 tackles for loss. That's linebackers, defensive linemen. I think one of their safeties might have had that too. But overall, I mean, this Bills defensive front is good. And then you add the linebackers who are absolutely dynamic. Tremaine Edmunds is making the Pro Bowl this year, the 119 total tackles, 2 sacks on the season. Then you've got Matt Milano, who's one of the better pass coverage linebackers in the NFL. He's really good too, and I'm going to be interested to see him and Travis Kelce match up next week. That's going to be something to be a little bit interested in. I don't know how he's going to do. Obviously, Milano is going to be in that guarding Kelce conversation, and obviously Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, those guys are also going to be involved in stopping Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. That's going to be something to watch out. But with that said, I mean, Matt Milano, Tremaine Edmunds, really good linebackers who are physical, able to stop the run. Edmunds is a downhill, physical, big, strong, fast linebacker. Milano is also fast too, physical. I mean, these linebackers are really, really great, and they're athletic too. And this secondary is frustrating. It's frustrating. It's because it's absolutely fantastic. Led by Pro Bowl, All-Pro talent Tre'Davious White, who had a team-leading 3 interceptions this season. He was obviously fantastic, coming off a huge year last year. I mean, Tre'Davious White is the future at cornerback for the Buffalo Bills, and I mean, he is the man. He absolutely is. He's fantastic. Really a shutdown guy. And then you got Levi Wallace. You got Taron Johnson, who obviously had that massive pick 6 last week against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. And the reason that the Bills were so successful against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens was because they really used their linebackers very effectively in stopping the run and containing Lamar Jackson, as well as, getting pressure on the quarterback, just being abusive and disruptive and just annoying. And that's what the Bills defense is all about. They're not one of the more talented defenses in the NFL. They've got a lot of older guys on the roster, guys like Addison, guys like Jerry Hughes, who are a little bit older. They're veteran guys, but they've also got a mix of young guys too. But they really mesh together well, and it's all with the safeties too. I mean, the safeties are fantastic. Jordan Poyer had a team-leading 124 tackles this season. Micah Hyde at safety, he's really good too. Those are one of the better safety tandems in the NFL. And overall, I mean, these safeties, these corners, they're really good, and it's all about their pass coverage. I mean, it's going to be a big task for them next week. How can they match up against a guy like Tyreek Hill? How can they match up against those fast Chiefs receivers and even Travis Kelce? I mean, it's a big thing if you're Leslie Frazier. How do you match up against them? But they have the guys on this roster to beat the Chiefs. Okay, you've got Josh Allen, who had a fantastic season. He's definitely in the MVP conversation. I don't think he will win the MVP because he's not Mahomes, he's not Rodgers, didn't have that elite level season, but he had a fantastic season. And when you've got one of the best pass catchers in the NFL with Stefon Diggs and Josh Allen, you've got a chance because this offense is going to put up the points. I mean, they're going to put up the points. And although they only put up 10 points last week, obviously they got the pick 6 that gave them 17, so they only put up 10 points on offense last week, which isn't great. They're going to bounce back. They're going to get back to it. Josh Allen has got this under control. And especially if Patrick Mahomes doesn't play next week. That's a whole other thing to watch out for, and I'll get to that in a second. But now it comes to how to stop the Chiefs. Now, if it's Mahomes or Henne, I don't care who it is. You can't let them extend plays. And you might think, Chad Henne can't run. But what you saw last week against the Cleveland Browns is he had a few plays where he got outside the pocket and picked up, big yardage. I mean, you gotta condense the pocket. Mahomes can do that. I think they're going to be less They're not really going to want to run Mahomes outside the pocket after getting a possible concussion last week. He had to go into concussion protocol. We don't know 100% if he will play on Sunday. So don't get your hopes up if you're a Bills fan, right? Just be like, hey, he could play, he might not play, but Chad Henne still can run this offense, and we saw that against Cleveland. So if it's Henne or Mahomes, you cannot let them extend plays with their legs. You cannot let them get outside the pocket. You got to bring the pressure, you got to bring the heat, and you got to contain them. And then, you got to play a physical defensive game. That's something that Buffalo is known for. You got to play your brand of defense. You got to get Tremaine Edmunds and Jordan Poyer as hard hitters. You got Matt Milano, Jerry Hughes, your veteran guys who can get to the quarterback. You got to be physical. You got to be athletic. You got to be just annoying. And that's what the Buffalo defense has done all season, and especially what they've done really well the past 6 or 7 weeks, where they've been one of the better defenses in the NFL. And then you've got to contain Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. Okay, and this sounds hard, right? Because they have obviously been fantastic. They combined for, I think, just shy of 17, 18 catches last week. I think they probably had 16 combined catches for like 220 yards and a touchdown. That's combined, okay? But the way you shut down Tyreek Hill is you put a corner on him, okay? You put a fast corner on him, and you put a safety on him to shadow him, and that might not even shut him down. You just got to contain him. And then Kelce, if you're playing zone defense, Kelce's going to be a problem. So you got to watch with your safeties. You got to watch with your linebackers. You got to be smart and aware with those where those guys are on the field at all times. You got to be aware if you're the defense here. And then you just got to unleash Josh Allen and Stefon Diggs. As I said, if you have Josh Allen, you have Stefon Diggs, and you have that elite level connection, you're going to have a chance. You just got to unleash Josh Allen, open up the playbook, allow for him to run outside the pocket, allow for him to be the man to carry this Bills team to the Super Bowl. Because, at the end of the day, those are your best players. Josh Allen and Stefon Diggs are your best players, right? Of course, you got Tre'Davious White on defense. He's fantastic too. But when it comes to scoring points, Josh Allen and Stefon Diggs are where it's at. You got to be smart with them. You got to put your hand. You got to put the ball in your hands of your playmakers. You got to get your playmakers the ball. Stefon Diggs is your playmaker. Josh Allen is your playmaker. Use their legs, use their speed, use their explosion, use their quickness to your advantage. This is going to be a shootout kind of game. I don't care if it's Mahomes. I don't care if it's Henne. If it's Henne, put all the pressure you want. If it's Mahomes, pressure, but be a little bit more laid back in that regard. Be physical, be aggressive on defense. That is how you beat the Chiefs. And at the end of the day, you got a top-tier quarterback, you've got an effective defense, you got a hard-to-stop offense, and you've got great coaching. That's what you need to go far in the playoffs. They've made it to the AFC Championship game. Okay? Buffalo fans, you're there. Okay, you're almost there. It's been 25, 26 years in the making, and you have a real chance because you've got a great quarterback, you've got great coaching, good defense, and playmakers all along this roster. And with that said, that's pretty much going to end the video for today. Did you agree with my analysis? Why or why not? Leave your comments in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Also, if you're new around here, please drop a like and a sub. I'd really appreciate it. And with that said, I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, see ya.